Hi everybody, welcome back. In our last video we introduced Pandas data frames, and we're going to continue with the same small data frame on ice cream sales. For this variable, looking at some of the Pandas operations, we're going to create a new variable and lag the ice cream sales a couple months. We're going to add some labels onto the weather to make it easier to see whether it's a good weather or bad weather. Instead of zeros and ones, we'll have bad and good. And then we're going to do a group by means to see how many average customers during good and bad weather, how many ice cream sales during good and bad weather, so on and so forth. So again, first let's see how we're going to do that in Excel. So I have a little data frame or set of data coded up here, and the first thing that we're going to do is lag the ice cream sales by a couple months. And so ice cream sales lag 2, we're going to call this. And a lot of times using time series data in econometrics, you're going to add some lags. And so we can't lag April 2 months ahead or behind because we don't know what happened 2 months before. So that one will be in A. May will be in A, but then we'll just lag by 2 months so that June gets lagged back to April, July gets lagged back to May, right, and so on and so forth. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is code weather as good or bad. In Python, what it's going to do is it'll look like it's saying bad, but underneath of the bad, the data is actually a 0. So the bad is really just a label, and the real data is the 0 and the 1 for good. But in Excel, what we need to do is actually create a separate variable. I'll go ahead and just call that weather. And we could just go in and type it bad, good, good, bad. But if you have a big data set, probably the easiest thing that you're going to do is build a little table and do a Vlookup. So we could just use that table, or we could also define the table. So you can come over here and type weather, hit that, enter that, and that'll allow us to do a Vlookup. We're going to look up this value from the table array. So we could select this, but when we select all of that, because I've named it, it's called weather. We're going to want the second column. So indexing in Excel starts as first column, second column. In Python, remember, it's 0th column, first column. And then we want an exact match on the lookup, so we're going to do false, 0 for an exact match. So bad, good, bad. Okay, and then we're all set. And then if we change this, we don't have to change anything other than that. Okay, and so this is essentially what we're going to be working on. Oh, and then the last thing is, now that we have this little data set, we want to check, depending on good or bad weather, how are the sales and the customers. So the way we're going to do that in Excel is to create a pivot table. And that's going to depend on weather. The rows are going to be bad or good weather. And then we want to see ice cream sales and customers, and we could throw the lagged sales in there. I'm just going to do these two. And instead of the sum of sales, we want the average, so we can go in there and select average sales, average number of customers, and we can see that there's a lot more ice cream sales during good weather than bad weather, a lot more customers as well. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing in Python. Okay, so new script, and again, we're going to import NumPy as np, import Pandas as pd. Actually, you know what? All this original data is the same in the script. So here's the Pandas script from last data set, and the Pandas script from this data set. First part is the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all this. If you want to go back and look at what I was doing there, defining NumPy arrays, and then defining the data frame through a dictionary. We're going to go ahead and run all that. Actually, get rid of these and then run all that just to show you what we have. Okay, and now we're going to include sales from 2 months ago. So basically a 2-month lag. To do that, what we're going to do is we're interested in creating a new variable inside the data frame called ice cream sales lag2. And that's going to be equal to, we're going to call it a method off of our data frame. So we have ice cream sales. Yep, we'll get there. Ice cream sales. And we can call this method, which is called shift2. And what that's going to do is just create a lag of 2 variables compared to the original variable, 2 observations compared to that original variable. So we'll call that. And if we look at the data frame, just as we had in Excel, we're going to have an NA for the first 2 months because we can't go back, but then we have our April lag, May, June, July. Okay, so we've got our lag there. Another one that's sometimes used also in time series is differencing. So you could difference by 2 months, and so instead of doing a lag, it would do the difference between this month and 2 months ago, and then the next month and 2 months prior, and that would be a diff function. I'll just show you what that looks like really quick. So June had 5 more sales than August. July had 90 more sales than May, right, and so on and so forth. So that difference call is a very useful one in time series. Okay, but we're doing the shift. Next, we're going to attach categorical labels to weather coded variable. So 0 is, and let's go ahead and write that. 0 is going to be equal to bad, and 1 is going to be equal to good. So to do that, we're going to do that on we're going to call that weather, and pandas dot categorical, and we do from codes, and then we have to define what our codes are. To do that, our data frame from our variable weather coded variable, we're going to set the categories equal to a list. So 0 is again going to be bad, and the first is going to be good. Okay, so we should be good there. And then if we look at the data frame again, we have our weather, good, bad, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then the last thing that we're going to do is look at the mean sales for each weather category. And so there we're going to create a variable called group means, called the data frame method called group by. So we're going to group by weather. And then from there we can call all sorts of functions. So if we want to look at the averages, we can call the mean. And if we run that and look at group means, then we'll see, just as we see in Excel, average ice cream sales of 41 and 96 for bad and good weather, 41 and 96, right? Weather coded, bad weather is 0, good weather is 1, 1833, 57, 66. That's what we got in Excel as well. And so now, it's easy to just change these around. If you want to look at the sum instead of the means, you can do that. And you can call all sorts of different mathematical functions there. Okay, so that's a little bit of the basics of data frames. Last video we talked about how do we index certain rows or certain columns within our data frame. In this video, just starting to look a little bit at some of the functions that we can use and the calls and the methods inside of Pandas. But instead of using these created little tiny data frames, what ultimately we're going to be doing a lot in econometrics is importing external data. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at how we import data, and actually in particular for these videos, which are based on the Wooldridge Econometrics textbook, which is called Introductory Econometrics, there's actually a module inside Python that's called Wooldridge, and that has a lot of preset data sets that we're going to be able to use. Okay, so next video we're going to be looking at importing all those different types of external data, and from there we're going to really be able to start we'll really be able to start doing some different kinds of analysis, looking at visualizations, looking at some statistics, and then from there we'll move on to doing regressions. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.